This is chapter 12. I had to put this in twice, but this is chapter 12 of Bill O'Reilly and Martin Dugard and Killing the Mob. Alright. I have my other episodes on, because we have like half the book read. So if you have any suggestions of books you want me to read, let me know. And I will take your suggestions and put them in and read those. Because I want to read books that people want to hear, that are good ideas. Because I feel we're together in this world, not apart. So give me some ideas. I mean, I'm not you. I don't know what people like. I don't know what you like because I don't really personally know you. So, help me out. Let me know what's popular and not popular out there. But I'll begin with chapter 12, and the other chapters I put them on a separate playlist all by themselves so they could be nice and organized. Jimmy Hoffa is no longer under pressure, at least not now. The weather outside is sweltering, but air conditioning keeps this crammed hearing room comfortable. Chief Counsel Bobby Kennedy is opening a new round of hearings into organized crime using informed gleaned from Appalachian Summit. The lean attorney is seated at the long table between his brother John and Republican Senator Barry Goldwater, facing those who will testify about the mob. Late August, it was Hoffa who sat opposite Kennedy, but president of the Teamsters Union is not the subject of today's investigation. We intend to focus on criminal group which held meeting at the home of Joseph Barbara Sir in Appalachian, New York on November 14th, 1957. Begins Committee Chairman John McLean. The discovery of this meeting by New York State Police had an effort of revealing the scope of interrelationships of some of the leaders of the National Crime Syndicate. With those words, McLean publicly refutes decades of federal denial about the existence of the mob. Millions of Americans are again watching him on television. Or will they soon learn that the mafia is not just a collection of well-known dress hoodlums, but a systematic organization that controls many aspects of American life, ranging from entertainment to gambling, politics, even law enforcement. From this day forward, it will be the policy of the American government not only to acknowledge but to destroy the mob. McLean turns proceedings over to his chief counsel, so is that Bobby Kennedy once again takes charge. The first witness will be Sergeant Edgar Croswell. The sergeant takes his seat at the window table and begins answering Kennedy's methodical questions in a slow and deliberate fashion. The trooper has been under intense pressure since the Appalachian incident, with praise and criticism directed at him in equal amounts. And here is Kennedy right here. That's Robert Kennedy. I don't know if you can see this. There we go. That's the picture they made. They have nice pictures in this book. I love a book with good pictures. Manage the pressure well, even thinner than before his peptic ulcer, and make it almost impossible for him to eat without pain. But Croswell is an articulate and compliant witness for which Kennedy is thankful. The same cannot be said for Bobby Kennedy's confrontation with union boss Jimmy Hoffa, which took place almost 1 year ago. Jimmy Hoffa hates Bobby Kennedy, and the feeling is mutual. The young Kennedy has evolved in a passionate opponent of organized crime. This is due to the large part to 40-year-old James Riddle Hoffa, lifelong labor advocate and union leader. These two men sparred publicly during the first round of the televised McLean hearings with Hoffa, very often coming out on top. And for Bobby Kennedy, a man who hates to lose, this is completely unacceptable. Hoffa, the 5'5", thickly muscled son of Indiana coal miner, is well heeled, the lawyer's polar opposite. Kennedy's Harvard education alone gives him the advantage over Hoffa, a high school dropout. Both men are more alike than they will ever publicly admit. Competitive overachievers who prefer to wear white socks with their dress suits and spontaneously drop to the floor for a quick set of push-ups. Kennedy drinks very little, and Hoffa not at all. Neither man smokes. Both are married men. These many shared habits have led to a friendship, but instead their hatred for each other runs deep. As long as he lives, Jimmy Hoffa will publicly cheer every Kennedy setback, even as Bobby makes it his personal mission to send Hoffa to prison forever. To most Americans, knowledge of union business is minimal, gleaned from movies like On the Waterfront starring Marlon Brando, but Kennedy's investigation seeks to expose corrupt union world where bribery of government officials, collusion with known criminals, secret loans from union pension funds, kickbacks, and poli- and other crimes that take place on a daily basis. All the while, unions pretend to be benevolent organizations. Bobby Kennedy and Jimmy Hoffa first met 3 weeks after the McLean hearings on January 30th, 1957. The occasion is dinner. Kennedy and Hoffa are invited to the home of the Teamsters lawyer Eddie Shafis of the union president Dave Beck. Hoffa's job is to convince Kennedy to back off from the investigation of the Teamsters, promising to make internal reforms himself as second in command. The night does not go well. Kennedy already has evidence that Hoffa is attempting to plant a spy within the McLean committee and is planning to have FBI arrest the Teamster. Also, Bobby Kennedy knows that Hoffa is associated with the Mafia. Johnny Dio, an underboss for the Genovese crime family. 5 months ago, it was Dio who ordered the sulfuric acid be thrown into his eyes of New York Daily Mirror correspondent Victor Riesel as a retaliation for his many articles condemning union corruption. The attack blinded Riesel for life. There is suspicion that Dio engineered the assault at Hoffa's request. So as Bobby Kennedy sits down with dinner with Jimmy Hoffa, he understands the sort of individual with whom he is dealing. And yet the Union leader is a surprise, bragging continuously about his personal toughness, leading Kennedy to wonder if Hoffa has questions about his own method, a bully hiding behind a facade. Kennedy will later write, throughout the meal, throughout the meal, RFK questions Hoffa continuously about Johnny Dio. Hoffa is candid. I do to others what they do to me, the union boss boasts, rather than admitting any connection to the acid attack. But as Kennedy sizes up Hoffa, the same thing is being done to him despite his lack of formal education. The Teamster leader is an astute judge of character, and he thinks Bobby Kennedy is weak. I could tell you how he shakes hands. What kind of fellow I got, Hoffa later states, referring Kennedy's soft grip. I said to myself, here's a fella thinks he's doing me a favor for talking to me. And when the dinner finally ends after 9 p.m., Hoffa confides to Shafiz, he's a damn spoiled jerk. 3 weeks after the meal, an FBI sting orchestrated by Kennedy and J. Edgar Hoover, Jimmy Hoffa is arrested for bribery, allegedly passing $2,000 in cash to an attorney as a payment for spying on the McLean hearings investigators. Eventually, some of the general public begins sympathizing with Hoffa, believing that Kennedy's attacks are one sided and unfair. Joseph Kennedy is taken aback by the intensity of his son's questionings, even asking him to back off, lest organized labor fail to support John Kennedy in the next presidential election. Bobby Kennedy refuses. Among these, inside organized labor, the national hearings make Hoffa a hero. Shortly after his state testimony, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters will elect Jimmy Hoffa as their new president. He garners an amazing 75% of the vote. Bobby Kennedy has made Jimmy Hoffa a legend. The outcome was an almost natural reaction of tough men in a tough industry. The National Guardian will note who objected to being told how to run affairs by an anti-labor Senate committee. Speaking to RFK, Hoffa Buglow is not the brightest fellow in the world, you know. He says, I love to bug the little bastard. In the end, Bobby Kennedy fails on a national stage, despite returns of evidence located by many of researchers. He is outfoxed. He knows that Jimmy Hoffa has ties to the mafia, authorizes beatings and murders, and accepts bribes in exchange for favors, while still vice president of International Brotherhood Teamsters. He consolidated IBT pension money from across the country into a singular, robust fund. Now, as president, he loans the mob cash to build new casinos in Las Vegas, but Kennedy has been unable to prove any of that. Thus, the corrupt Hoffa dances away. In truth, the McLean hearings benefited both Kennedy and Hoffa. Each day, the labor leader waltzes into walnut paneled office in the Marble Palace, where a personal chief serves his favorite lunch of cold lobster and crab, where he sometimes takes a steam bath in the private basement of the gymnasium. Hoffa's Gill is turning into power, and he knows it. Although Bobby Kennedy remains angry, he and his brother John have gained enormous fame from the hearings. The Saturday Evening Post runs the story The Amazing Kennedys. Look at these features: the rise of the brothers Kennedy. 1 year later, Bobby Kennedy is sent to begin the McLean Committee's second round of hearings. This time, Hoffa is absent, as an interrogation is aimed at the mobsters detained at Appalachian Summit in New York once again. Robert Kennedy will be watched by millions on national television. This time he cannot fail. The criminals will not talk. Those detained in Appalachian have been ordered to take the Fifth Amendment. Mob lawyers, well understanding that their clients cannot be forced to testify against themselves, so Bobby Kennedy's excitement about grilling major figures like Vito Genovese and Joe Profaci turns to frustration as witnesses after witness defies him by invoking their right to silence. The Justice Department is of no help to Kennedy, refusing to prosecute those criminals who take the stand, saying there's not enough evidence to build a case. Bobby Kennedy, whose emotions are always transparent, grows increasingly bellicose during those procedures. He always comes to the realization that this committee is losing ground to enemy within. He refers to the mafia. Typically, this is a conversation between Kennedy and Sam Gaisanara and the flashy Chicago leader of the outfit. At 50, the widower Giancana is known as a playboy Bonifacio, fond of Las Vegas nightlife and pulling around with entertainers like Frank Sinatra. He has also been arrested 70 times for acts of violence, including 3 times for murder. It is thought that he was authorized more than 200 mafia hits on his enemies. Giancana is listed in the state of Nevada's Las Vegas Black Book, which also shows the photographs of 11 suspected mafioso who are not allowed on the premises of any casino, which does not stop Giancana in the least. Frank Sinatra is known to hide the mobster in his dressing room at the Sands where FBI agents visit the casino. 2 men often travel together. Sinatra not only flies to Chicago to sing for free at Giancana's Villa Venice Club, but also closes the show with My Kind of Town Chicago Is. It is a tribute to Sam Giancana. The mobster repays the favor, showing his friendship by always wearing the sapphire pinky ring given him by Frank Sinatra. When the singer films the movie, some come running in a town near Chicago. Giancana is a regular visitor to that set, often bringing his mafia underlying their nightly revelry. Amazed co-star, Shirley MacLaine. I didn't know who they were, she would remember of the anonymous mobsters. I only know that the nightlife of poker, jokers, and pasta and booze went on to 5 a.m. Frank wanted to be a hood singer. Eddie Fisher would later marvel at Sinatra's fascination with Giacana. He once said, "I'd rather be a mafia don than a president of the United States." The actor Peter Lawford, now married to Bobby Kennedy's sister Patricia, knows Giacana through her friendship with Sinatra. You better believe that when the world got out of Hollywood that Frank was a pal of Sam Giacana, and but nobody ever messed with Frank Sinatra. They were too scared. Concrete boots were no joke with this guy. He was a killer. Left unsaid in the committee rooms on this day that John Kennedy is also a very good friend of Frank Sinatra and his band of fellow entertainers, named the Rat Pack. Sinatra and his crew often make jokes about their mafia connections. In doing so, they turn the mafia from hoodlums depicted by Sergeant Croswell in his earlier testimony into glamorous mystery men. The main event of the second McLean hearing is Bobby Kennedy against Sam Giacana. The encounter does not go well for the government. Mr. Kennedy, would you tell us if you have opposition for anybody that you dispose of by having them stuffed in a trunk? Is that what you do, Mr. Giacana? Sam Giacana. I decline to answer because I honestly believe my answer might tend to incriminate me. Mr. Kennedy, would you tell us anything about your operations, or will you just giggle every time I ask you a question? Sam Giacana. I decline to answer because I honestly believe my answer might tend to incriminate me. Mr. Kennedy. I thought you little girls giggled, Mr. Giacana. Sam Giacana will plead the fifth 34 times. The man who privately boasts, "I own Chicago, I own Miami, I own Las Vegas," admits nothing to Bobby Kennedy. The Fifth Amendment is for the innocent as well as the guilty. I can think of very few witnesses who availed themselves of it. All right, and this is singer Phyllis. Okay, this is singer Phyllis and Sam Giacana. That's Frank Sinatra's friend right there, and that's another singer. They run with good company. I will say that. Alright, who is, in my estimation, went free from wrongdoing? A wary Kennedy will admit. His frustration grows so great that he often turns off his microphone during the hearings so that his words cannot be recorded. However, after yet another gangster pleads the fifth, Kennedy's subpurge is picked up loud and clear. "You're full of shit." Over the course of the McLean hearings, Bobby Kennedy has authorized 253 investigations, served 8,000 subpoenas, called 1,526 witnesses, and compiled 150,000 pages of testimony. Public awareness about organized crime is an all-time high, but in the end of 1959, Americans are growing weary of exposition. It will now be left to law enforcement to complete the task of prosecuting the mafia, and in a strange turn of events, it is Bobby Kennedy, not the mob, who is depicted as the villain. No one since Joseph McCarthy has done more than Mr. Kennedy to foster the impression that the plea of self incrimination is tantamount to a confession of guilt. One law professor from Yale will write. In the summer 1959, Bobby Kennedy resigns from the McLean Committee. If there is an upbeat moment for the exhausted chief counsel, it is Vito Giovanni's conviction in a New York courtroom on charges of drug trafficking. Prosecutors there succeed where Kennedy did not, with a jury finding Genovese guilty of conspiring to import and sell narcotics. Never one to forget a grudge called Lucky Lucinio allegedly struck back at Genovese all the way from Italy, arranging for Puerto Rican dealer to implicate Vito Genovese in the sale of narcotics, leading to a 15-year sentence. Genovese will continue to run his crime family while serving his time in Atlanta Federal Penitentiary, even ordering executions of several of his enemies. Little else has changed. And the five families still run New York. Sam Giancana and the outfit have never been more powerful in Chicago. Las Vegas is more firmly than ever in criminal hands. But the mob infused Cuba, there's a new story. In 1959, communist rebel Fidel Castro seizes control of the corrupt island nation. On January 1st, Castro's rebel band captures Havana. The mob run casinos had long been a source of anger to Cuban people for wealth within their walls, contrasted so sharply with their poverty. So, one of Castro's first orders was the destruction of the casinos. Mayor Lansky's brand new Rivera Hotel, which the mobsters spent millions to construct, is a scene of broken windows, smashed and burned slot machines, and even pigs set free loose on the hallways, is a symbol of capitalist gluttony. Lansky has, well, this is, oh, here's John F. Kennedy and Frank Sinatra. They got a picture of him before we get to the next page. I don't know if you can see that good. I can see that in the camera this way. I didn't know Frank Sinatra was this political. I kind of have, honestly, reading this, I feel like I know Frank Sinatra in a different way that I didn't know before. But anyways, Lansky has sensed that Castro would be successful in controlling Cuba, so New Year's Eve, which should have been one of the busiest nights of the year, Lansky made the quick decision to close the Riviera and move all cash on premises to a safe place. 1 week later, Mayor Lansky fled for Cuba for the safety of the Bahamas, having lost a fortune due to casinos revolution. In 1959, a FBI team led by Bill Romer sneaks into Solano's Custom Tailors on Michigan Avenue under cover of darkness. To their relief, the building is unguarded. Romer leads the FBI's Organized Crime Investigation Squad here in Chicago, the second floor office. The team soon enters enters belongs to Jimmy Salino, who makes a substantial portion of his living selling fine suits members of the outfit. The room features a large sofa, easy chair, desk, well stocked bar, and a safe. Romer has learned that Solano loans out the room to the local mob each afternoon for private meetings. Agent Romer hopes to conceal a microphone within the office so the federal investigators can listen in. The task is not simple. The microphone is the size of a softball and not easily concealed. The agents must also run a wire from the microphone outside the building, then find a way to connect it with their headquarters 5 miles away on Clark Street. All the while, J. Edgar Hoover was informed Romer had his team that he will disavow any knowledge of their actions should they engage in gunfire with local mafioso or could be arrested by burglars by Chicago police. Working quickly, the agents succeed in concealing the microphone behind a radiator. Casting the wire is not simple. The team is forced to return to Salino's office on 6 different occasions, always a Sunday morning before dawn. Before family, running the wire outside, down the hall, and connecting it with the local telephone mainframe. It is July 29th, the birthday of Agent Romer's wife, Jeannie, when the bug becomes active, code name Little L, for the outfitter's connection to Al Capone. The secret microphone is the first wiretap in the history of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The bug, as it is known, is illegal, and the evidence gained through this transmission cannot be used as evidence in court. Yet, due to overheard conversations by Sam Giancana and other mobsters in Jimmy Salino's office, the FBI can finally confirm the names of the top bosses of La Cosa Nostra and the fact that a national organized crime body known as the Commission has been in existence since 1931. With the planning of a single microphone, the FBI learns more about the Mafia in 6 weeks than Bobby Kennedy McLean hearings established 3 years ago. Back in Washington, Jimmy Hoffa is not much concerned with Fidel Castro. His obsession remains with Robert Kennedy. He secretly meets with the likely Republican presidential nominee Richard Nixon late in 1959 to offer a Teamster endorsement of his candidacy, knowing this could severely impact John Kennedy's hopes of winning the presidency in 1960. Subsequently, the Hoffa-Nixon relationship will be surely tested as the president campaign unfolds. Meanwhile, the privately reckless JFK will do something that will appall his younger brother. Senator John Kennedy, relentlessly in his pursuit of women, will involve himself with a young lady named Judith Campbell, who will soon become the mistress of the very dangerous Sam Giancana. The plot thickens, and that is all of chapter 12. So, I am going to, it's getting late, and my husband's probably honestly going to be home soon. So, I'm going to probably, since I don't have to work tomorrow, try to get like a couple chapters read. And I'm going to try to do 13 and 14 at least. And I do have a yarn rug that I'm working on for a resident at work. So I'm probably going to put together her table rug also, and then show how I do that. I'm still waiting on my yarn needles because he hasn't ordered them yet, but he's supposed to order these. I'm working with one small crochet needle right now. So, but I do have one where I'm just braiding yarn and I'm just making a table rug. So, I'll probably do a video about that, and it's really easy. We've been trying to listen to different people on YouTube that are really good with yarn and stuff to get like different methods of crocheting because I'm better at doing. I'm really better. What I'm good. I'm pretty decent with yarn, but crocheting, knitting is much better for me than crocheting. So I gotta kind of get myself in the groove with crocheting and practice with it. And then I'm gonna try to get some bigger crocheting needles. So I'm gonna probably do that tomorrow. And thank you for the hearts. I appreciate it. But that'll be tomorrow because I didn't have a hard day at work and sleep half the day. So that'll be an episode there. And I have like half of them, and they're thick. And I'll show, and I'm gonna make a couple as I'm doing it too. So, and then I'm gonna do the yarn embroidery and put them together and show you guys how all you have to do is braid your yarn and you can put it together with yarn needles. And it's so easy. Little kids could do it. And it's fun, honestly. And crocheting is just a little bit more difficult, I think. Some people think crocheting's easier than knitting, but I think knitting's a lot more uniform. But crocheting could be very hard at times. And it's taken me a minute. I've been watching videos of how to do a slip knot, and I'm looking at these little kid videos with this dinosaur, and they're going around and going, arr. And I'm like, oh my god, this is where I'm at. Little kid videos, at slip knots, but I'm getting the practice, and it's kind of like knitting, but it's not. It's a little different. So I just kind of wanted, like, I did braid some because it would take me 2 hours on episode where I just could show you how to braid a couple real thick ones and then sew them together with the yarn needle. And I got them from Amazon, this whole entire little set for like $5. It was so easy to get. It was so cheap. And I'll show you the set tomorrow when I put together the rug for my resident at work because she has one of those hospital tables. And she has all of her stuff, and she does a lot of crocheting and stuff. She gave me the crochet needle to borrow till I get my needles. So, and I'm making her that rug because she gave me a ton of yarn too. So I'm going to try to get that together too. And I will probably see you guys tomorrow. Most likely in the afternoon time. It's going to be before 7 p.m. because he gets off work at 7. And he works almost every single day. So I will for sure be on here doing that tomorrow. And I'm going to try to like get everything together, maybe practice a little more crocheting today in my free time. And I hope you guys have a good evening and you enjoyed the book because I'm enjoying it. I didn't know Frank Sinatra was this political. He's such a great singer. Who knew he had all this stuff going on? I would have never known it. Elvis Presley, I don't think, had any kind of political ties. I don't think. Maybe I should get a book on Elvis Presley. Maybe he had presidential ties that I personally did not know about. So, but I'm going to let you guys go because he's going to be home soon. And thank you for listening. And I am trying to make it a good, constructive channel that has different things that are useful and entertaining. And I do like books. I have a passion for books and yarn. So I'm trying to put both together so they could be helpful for the general public. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. And thank you so much for listening to me. It made my entire day because I'm pretty much a housewife that sits in my house with my dog. I'll turn the camera over so you can see my dog. There's the dog. Hey, Chong. Well, he's always sleeping. He's always sleeping while I'm doing my yarn crafts and stuff. And I take him, and when I finish one episode of something, I go take him out to go pee. That's our routine. And he waits till I'm done. And I figure it takes about an hour or so, so by that time he has to pee again. But this is my life. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow and have a good day. Yes, I do.